It's been close to 6 months since the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Canada, Richard Wagner, has been juggling two of the highest roles in the land. The Supreme Court Justice has been pulling double duty as the head of Canada's top court and serving as the acting Governor General. Well, now the Chief Justice might be seeing a new face. Well, he is going to be seeing a new face alongside him on the Supreme Court bench. The Prime Minister's office has just officially announced that Mahmoud Jamal will be the nominee to replace Justice Rosie Abella. She retired at the age of 75. That's the mandatory age of retirement. And he will now be the first person of color appointed to Canada's Supreme Court. What does Chief Justice Wagner make of this historic announcement? And also, how he's handled this last half year. It has been busy. It is an absolute honor to have the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Richard Wagner, join us right now. Thank you, sir, for being here, Chief Justice. What a pleasure. There's so much to speak about with you, but today is also the day where Mahmoud Jamal is going to join you on the Supreme Court as the first person of color. Can you comment on his role? I mean, he's replacing Rosie Abella, who was the first Jewish woman to sit on the bench. Are these important things to consider?
Yeah, it was a very good day for the court, I must say. I had my first press conference this morning. It was my fourth press conference, as a matter of fact. And this afternoon, the Prime Minister announced the appointment of Justice Jamal, which is a great appointment. It's in line with the consultation that we had. You know, I met with the members of the selection committee. I met with the Justice Minister, consultation also with the Prime Minister. So he's well regarded. It's a great news for the court. It's a great news for the justice system. And we are very pleased to welcome Justice Jamal at the Supreme Court of Canada. I've been arguing for many years now that the court should reflect society. And that's why I think it's very important that diversity be reflected on the court.
Let's talk about that. You're right. This would be the first essentially non-white person ever, so the first person of color. It leaves the bench not gender balanced. It will now be 6 men and 3 women. But what do you say to those folks who say justice should be blind, that it shouldn't be necessarily made up? Those considerations may be secondary. How do you calibrate or balance that with the need for the court to, as you say, sir, reflect society?
Well, I think it's up to the Prime Minister to, decide on the appointments. But my point is that we should try, and the government should try, to get as much diversity as possible on the bench, if only to reflect society. The gender balance is one element. I think that the Prime Minister will have another chance next year to appoint another judges on the court. And that could be a woman, so the gender balance will be respected. So there are all kinds of criteria. I think it's a big step that has been taken today. I'm very happy with that, and I think we are on the right path for the future.
Supreme Court Justice, the government tabled their bill to modernize the Official Languages Act, as you know. One of the provisions is to enshrine bilingualism on the Supreme Court. There are some who are concerned that that may disqualify some parts of the country where bilingualism is less prevalent. In the West, in some communities, Aboriginal communities, there has never been an Aboriginal Canadian on the bench. What do you make of that provision? Should it be open to non-English or perhaps non-French-speaking bilingual citizens?
I understand the concern, but I have two answers to that issue. First of all, I take the position of the citizens of this country. And every citizen, every Canadian citizen in this country has the right to present his or her case to the Supreme Court in one of the official languages. And when you take this position, which is quite fundamental in Canada, then you will expect the justices of the Supreme Court to be able to exchange, to speak, to talk, to understand, to learn, to read in both official languages. So that's the first step. That doesn't mean that other people cannot eventually file application to become a justice of the Supreme Court, even if that person does not speak both languages. Eventually, what we've done what the judges, what the stakeholders have done for a number of years now is to invite, to promote persons who would like to sit on the bench, whether it be lower courts or the Supreme Court, to take lessons, to learn one of the two languages. So
right.
It has been done, it is done right now, and it will be done in the very near future. And I would expect, for instance, to have an Indigenous justice on the bench within the next few years.
Oh, that would be interesting. Okay. You have been doing something very unique. I think this is the longest or the second longest time Canada has gone without a Governor General after Julie Payette stepped down. You have, of course, as our Constitution requires, you step in to fulfill the duties of the Governor General. And I'm sure it's made you very busy, Chief Justice. But there are concerns because you sign orders in council. You sign royal assent now. And I know it's part of the law, but there is concern that it puts you in an awkward position. Do you believe that you should recuse yourself from some legislation that you signed for royal assent that the court may then have to rule on or weigh in on that? Are there any circumstances by which you should say, no, that might give the perception that it's not totally objective?
Absolutely not. That's my short answer, because you know, when I give royal assent, for instance, or sign decrees or documents, I wear my hat as administrator of the Government of Canada, and it's my duty. I have no choice, it is also a privilege for me to fill that gap between the time that we are waiting for an appointment of the Governor General. So I don't give opinion. I don't give any legal opinion, advice when I give royal assent. I simply accomplish my duty, my constitutional duty, and I see no reasons why I should recuse myself. Eventually, should a legislation be challenged in court.
I know these are delicate issues, and of course I want to desperately ask you about the notwithstanding clause, which has recently been used in Ontario. It's been used, I think, about 17 times in Quebec in history, but it was supposed to be rarely used. But there are critics who say that if the court is infringing on the jurisdiction of Parliament, that provinces are going to use the notwithstanding clause to assert their primacy of Parliament. I'm just intrigued to see how you respond to perhaps the accusation that the courts are becoming too powerful, that they're starting to over-legislate, and that's why we're seeing provinces flex back and assert the primacy of legislators by using the notwithstanding clause.
I'm sure you will understand that I will not comment on this issue. I will only tell you that the court, as usual, will render decisions based on the evidence and based on the arguments. And for the rest, it's up to other people to answer those type of questions that you just asked me.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, Justice Abella retired, and I spoke to her extensively on CTV's Question Period, but in a speech in 2018, she said this: "A Supreme Court is the final adjudicator of which contested values in a society should triumph." And she specifically talked about which contested values. And of course, you know where that means. Does the Supreme Court determine values, as Justice Abella spoke about, or determine laws? Which is it?
I will not comment on my dear friend's interviews. I think it's up to her to give her opinion. I only can reiterate the fact that the court will render its decision based on evidence and arguments. You know, for all the other questions, I would like to be part of the debate, so that's why I would not comment.
I knew you wouldn't, but I have to give it a try, sir, as you know. You've talked a lot about access to justice. And access to justice is a profound issue, as you know. I'm intrigued what you think the biggest challenge right now to the courts are in Canada right now.
Well, you know, you're right, access to justice. We've been talking of access to justice for years and years now, and even before the pandemic started. And so what happened with the pandemic it brought us to the 21st century in a way, in forcing the courts and other institutions to use technology to make sure that justice is rendered. And I think that the biggest challenge right now for the courts would be to lower the backlog. I think that there's a risk of backlog at the trial level because of the pandemic, although the most urgent matters were dealt with through technology, but that will be a challenge for the upcoming years.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some say, everyone's always said access to justice is always a big issue, but how do you actually fix it? You talk about the use of technology. I'm intrigued by that. But is it just the nature of our system? You've got appeals, you've got challenges. We always are trying to say access is better, but can you actually make the system more efficient, or do we really have to kind of reinvent the system a bit?
Well, both, I think. I think that what the pandemic, this terrible pandemic has brought, the only good side I could, if I can say, is to maybe look at new ways to do justice, to release justice. And at the same time, it becomes more efficient. Even before the pandemic, there were some problems for access to justice. It was too long, too many delays. It was too costly. Mm-hmm. And, we released a decision by the name of Jordan, which sent a big signal. And most stakeholders in the justice system realized that they had to do something. The governments, law societies, lawyers, and that's why steps were taken to improve with all kinds of remedies. There is no magic solution. There is no magic remedy. There are a full line of remedies that could be used, like pro bono work, like increasing legal aid, like all kinds of initiatives. And following the pandemic, those objectives remain the same, but with the use of more technology now that we know that it can be helpful and useful.
Last question to you. I know you're still acting as the Governor General. We don't have another Governor General. There could be an election anytime soon, as you know, which could get tricky. Do you think we're going to get a Governor General by the summer, or do you think your busy schedule, Chief Justice, is going to continue?
Well, I take it one day at a time, sir. So today I signed many, many documents. Tomorrow is another day. And I'll wait until the Prime Minister makes the announcement about the new Governor General. For the time being, I'm continuing to do my work.
I would just say what a pleasure it is to have you on the program. I know it's a rare thing to be able to speak to the Supreme Court Chief Justice. It is a real honor to have you on the program.